My name is Atwola, and there are many different sides to me. Which side do you know? What you're about to see and hear are some of the stories from my past. Now, a lot of you know me from doing hair, a lot of you know me from filming, but there's a lot about me that a lot of other people just don't know. One thing my mother always said, may she rest in peace, but one thing she always said to me was, if anyone's going to tell your story, you need to be the one to tell it. Why? Because no one can tell your story the way you can. Key word is your story. So there you have it. I am a dweller. You're about to step inside of my life. So without further ado, welcome to my world. Last segment that I had when I was talking to you guys was basically I was telling you guys when I decided that I wanted to sell drugs, right? Sell crack or whatever. So what I didn't mention in that last segment was that remember I told you the girl that was supposed to have been my homegirl that I gave half of the drugs to that I never saw her like again for like a week. Well, finally she comes back to school, right? So when she came back to school, she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I lost the package, this and the third." Now, keep in mind, this is after, everything had happened with the chocolate guy. After my cousin had spoken to him, after my mother had found the drugs, pretty much I was good. I was done selling drugs, but I still was like, yo, I'm gonna have to whoop her ass because what if I needed that money? You know what I'm saying? What if it had went wrong and bitch, I trusted you to basically, we was both starting out, but you was a hustler like I was trying to be a hustler. So you just left and it's like you took the package. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, right? So we in school when I saw her and I was like, yo, you gonna get it after school. So of course, when you have friends, right? The friends are like, yo, she played you, probably they probably didn't say play because this was like the 90s. Yeah, this was like 80s, late 80s, early 90s. So I don't even know if we were using the word played you or not, right? But anyway, so after school, because I was like, I'm gonna beat your ass after school, talking about the girl that I had gave the drugs to sell with me or whatever, right? So of course she tried to run. So it got to be after school or whatever, right? And this bitch was like, trying to run to the train station. So we caught her. When I say we, it was other girls in school that I used to hang with. So they was like, yo, get this bitch, get this bitch. People always want to see a fight, right? They always want to see a fight. So she was like, I don't want to fight you with Lola. I don't want to fight you, And I was like, nah, bitch. I was like, I got hit. Niggas was talking about things about the gang rape me, all because of I didn't have their money. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, nah, you about to take this ass whooping. So basically I whooped the ass. And it was so crazy because back then, the way I used to fight was if you had on a loose shirt, I would pull that shirt up over your head and then bonk, just bonk you. So, I was hitting this girl so hard and so much that her face like had bust open. So I was just bam, bam, just punching her. So now I got all like this blood on me and shit. And I was like, yo, let me just go home. So after that, ended up not even fooling with the chick no more. I was like, I'm done. Whoop your ass. That's that. So of course they like, yeah, you shouldn't have been hanging with that white bitch anyway. You ain't our friend no more. You've been fucking with this white girl. Hanging with her. So needless to say, she got her butt whooped. Okay. So that's that. That's that era. All right. That's what happened with her. Because you probably was trying to figure out had I ever run into her again. And yes, I did. I had to whoop her ass. And I never got the money or drugs back from her, which I didn't even want the drugs at this point anyway. Even if she had them, I didn't want them. But it was the fact of how you gonna violate me. The crackhead ain't even still a drug. You'd have thought that when I gave the drugs to the crackhead, that the crackhead would have like jumped the fence, but he didn't even steal the drugs. They would bring me back money. All right, so that's that. So now I'll talk about my father moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, right? So I used to go to Charlotte a lot. So now after this era of me trying to sell drugs, now I enter the era where I wanted to date drug dealers. I'm just saying, don't judge me. This is, my past life. I'm just saying. I may be 17, maybe 18. What I skipped was so I did graduate from high school. I did graduate from graphic communication arts. I graduated in 1990. I went to college. I went to a college upstate called Coble School University. Stayed there a couple of semesters. I was done with college. I was like, college ain't for me. All right. So I go down south. down south, meaning Charlotte, North Carolina. So I went through a stage where, well, first of all, I went through a college kind of stage where I wanted to date college boys. But the only thing about dating college guys are they have no money. Like when you're in school, you're broke. You know what I'm saying? Especially if your parents had to pay for you to go to school, you either better get a job or you better do something. You better have some type of hustle. And at the time, I didn't really have a hustle, so I was just like, whatever. So I dated, a guy that was in the Kappas. So dated him for a while. That was okay. He wasn't all that. His name was Bernard. He was kind of ugly cute. Like, not cute, but he could dress nice, so that made him cute. Okay. So that was getting boring. So that was like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to start dating somebody with some money. So eventually I got a job, right? And I got a job at a clothing store in this mall out there called Freedom. I want to say it was called Freedom Mall. And the clothing store was called InStyle. And InStyle was run by like some Pakistanians or something. You know, you don't want to keep calling everybody Arab, but by some Pakistanians. So they hired me, and these drug dealers used to come in there like all the time. And you know, back then, drug dealers looked like drug dealers. You know, the big chains, they come in with wads of money, so you knew who had dough. But there was this one drug dealer, right? This one that I had heard that he was really, really, really big time. His name was Gene. They used to call him Gene Butterbean. So I was like, that's who I need to talk to, Gene Butterbean. That's the guy with all the dough. I need to try to deal with him, right? And keep in mind, guys, this is the era that I was going through. I was just wanting to date guys that had that fast cash so they could give it to me fast, right? So Gene would come in the store, right? But Gene wouldn't pay me any attention. And I was like, fly. I was always fly. Now, don't get it twisted. But I was like, well, I can't really push myself on him because I'm quite sure girls do that. And that's not how, I played my game. So I was like, well, shit, there has to be a way that he can notice me without realizing that I'm intentionally trying to get him to notice me. You get what I'm saying? So it was another girl that worked in the store with me. She was something like the assistant manager. And she had a baby by Gene's father. Now, I had heard like a lot of different stories, and she looked like this little innocent chick. But so you would never think that she was about that bread. But if you got a baby by an old dude that got that money, then that means that you was about that bread. But she would never really talk about it. So Gene would come in sometime, talk to her, buy a couple of things. So I was like, shit, how can I see this cat, right? So I didn't really hang out back then. Like I was trying to get into the club scene, but I wasn't really major into the club scene. Cause let's say at this point I'm like 17, 18, maybe 18, 17, 18, I think. Yeah, I wasn't even in my 20s yet. Right. So I was like, there has to be a way for me to run into him. So I used to think like every day I would go to work and I would be in the mall and I'm like, shit, when is this man going to come back in the mall? Now people used to talk about him. Like, how people nosy. Like that's how people get caught when you're doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing, because people would just constantly talk about what you're doing, probably because they want to do it. You know what I'm saying? So I occasionally would talk to the little, what I call a penny ante drug dealer, like somebody had some weed, probably some coke, a little bit of coke or whatever. But I wanted the big guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, if I'm going to deal with somebody that's selling drugs, I want the big dude. So this is the beginning of this era in my life for me. Now, once I finish this segment, this may be a 6 video segment because it's crazy. Like this whole segment is bananas. Hold on, I'm gonna share this. I'm about to share this. So give me a sec, guys. I'm gonna share it on Facebook so people know I'm actually live now. Yeah, I don't think I can. All right, well, I'll do it from my phone. All right, hold on. If you guys want to chat with me while I'm checking, I'll do it from my phone. All right, there we go. All right. So like I said, I was working in a store called InStyle, and I would never I saw him maybe twice. And then I'm like, well, shit, I didn't really know where he hung out. Of course, I couldn't really ask anybody because if you know somebody selling big time drugs, you can't just go up to somebody and be like, yo, Gene Butterbean? Do you know where he lives at? Or do you know where he hangs out at? You can't do that. So it just so happened that one night, let's say this was maybe a month later. That's how long it was before I saw this cat again. It was a month later, right? Now, guys, this is no lie. Call me thirsty. call me whatever, but I was determined to get this dude. I was determined. So I remember I was at the IHOP with some friends of mine, right? And then Gene was there. Yes. He was with some of his friends, right? So I was like, oh shit. So I'm in there and, I'm eating my food and I'm just trying to like get his attention. I'm trying to get his attention without getting his attention. That makes sense? So I was like, shit, I gotta get this guy's attention. But remember, I'm a young girl. He's an older guy. So he probably wouldn't be paying me no mind. He probably like, this little girl, and I was a slim girl. Like I didn't have the boobs that I have now because, these are aborts. So I still had a nice body though. I was probably a size 5'6". I'm thinking at the time, but I was real cute. I always had a pretty face. Always kept my hair done because, of course, I did hair. So I was cute. I don't even remember what I had on, but I felt like I had enough going on with myself to get this man's attention. So he left, right? He left out. And I remember he walked out and he went to the right. So I was like, shit. So, of course, I'm still trying to get his attention. So I'm like, damn, what could I do? Think. So I said, all right. I said, go outside. When you see his car about to pull off, just kind of like get in front of his car, like be in a way, like bend down, tie your shoe, do something. This is me now. This is me young, thinking like, how am I going to get this guy's attention? So that's what I did. So I know y'all like this crazy girl, but that's what I did. I'm just saying, that's how I got his attention. So he started his car. So I'm looking, right? So I'm looking out the window. So I go to the front. I'm like, hey, y'all, I'll be back. So I leave the table and I walk out the door. And right when I saw him like pulling off, because you can only go out one way, I started walking really slow. So he was driving slow. So then he stopped, right? Like, so I got like literally, I'm walking like this, right? This is me walking and this is his car. So I'm walking slow just enough so that by the time he reaches me, I stop, right? So whatever, this is a story. You enjoying it. Okay, so I stopped. So I'm walking really, really slow, calling myself walking sexy or whatever, So then I stopped and I leaned down like I was getting ready to pick up something. But I made sure, he saw me not to hit me. Now, wouldn't that have been some shit if he would have hit me? That would have been so crazy. Like if I bent over, just boom, and he'd have hit me or something and I done broke some bones. Okay, so then when I bent down, he got out the car. Yeah. So he gets out the car. So he was like, hey, you all right? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. I was like, how you doing? And he was like, I'm good. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, what's up? And he's like, what's up with you? And I was like, I'm all right. So needless to say, we exchanged pages. Right, we exchanged pages. I had a pager, he had a pager. So he gave me his pager number. Now he was driving a Corvette, cute Corvette. I was like, oh, this nigga really got that bread. So we exchanged pager numbers, right? All right. So now I have his pager number, but of course I can't sound thirsty or I can't let him know that I was really trying to, get his attention. So he didn't page me, right? He didn't page me. So I was like, shit, I didn't page him. He didn't page me. So I was like, you know what? Whatever. So at this point, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not meant to be, but I still kept his pager, right? I still kept it. So after this, right now, this is where this story is going to start getting crazy. Catch up. Keep in mind, his name was Gene Butterbean. Just keep that in mind. All right. So that weekend, one of my friends, I skipped a lot of stuff. Okay. Now, guys, at this point, I didn't go back to New York. My father was like, okay, you dropped out of college. You have to do something. So I ended up signing up for cosmetology school, right? So if anybody knows when I talk about going to school for hair, so I end up, doing that. Okay. Now, let me tell you about this part. So that weekend I go out, right, with some friends of mine. I think I went out with Nene and Jazz. I think that's who I went out with that weekend. But anyway, so we go out to a little club. And keep in mind, I wasn't really like a club person. Wasn't really like a major club person, but we went out. Let's think. Well, what was I? I didn't have any kids yet. Yeah, okay. So we go to some little hole in the wall, right? Some little hole in the wall. So I meet this guy named Malcolm. No, I've skipped a lot of stuff. Malcolm, let me just move forward because I know you guys just want to hear the interesting stuff. I met this guy named Malcolm. Malcolm sold drugs. Keep in mind now, I was at the era where I wanted to be with a drug dealer. Why? Because they had fast money. I was about that bread. So I started dealing with Malcolm, right? Malcolm basically used to sell for this guy. We're gonna call him Rich. Let's call the guy Rich. I'll come back to the Gene Butterbean story in a minute, but I'm just trying to get you some names so you can know where I'm going with this. Okay, so Malcolm let's just say Malcolm sold for a guy named Rich, right? At this point, I'm in cosmetology school. I move out of my father's house and I get an apartment of my own. So now I have an apartment of my own. I'm just kind of skipping ahead, okay? I'm kind of skipping ahead like a lot, so just keep up with me. Some of the stuff that I feel like is not that interesting, I'm not even going to talk about it. So Malcolm was selling drugs for Rich, right? Malcolm used to take a lot of trips to California because that's where they used to get the drugs from, right? So he would take a lot of trips to California, and I had my 2-bedroom apartment. You know, I thought I was real cute. Now I've skipped a lot of stuff. So at this point now I have a child, not by anybody that any of you guys knew, but I had a child at this point. So let's just say this is some years later. I know I'm skipping around. So I'm in my 20s now, like 2021. So I know I skipped around a lot of stuff. Just keep in mind about the Gene Butterbean. Remember now, I had his pager. He never paged me. I never paged him. I said, you know, I'll talk to him when it's time for me to talk to him. So I don't know if he lost my number, but I never ran into him again. At this point, I done moved on. Just keep that in mind. I'm not working at InStyle anymore because now I'm dating a guy that can give me that bread. I'm dating Malcolm. Malcolm had that money. I didn't have to work. Only thing I did was went to school. He gave me money every day, you know what I'm saying, to do what I want to do. So now I'm like what you call a kept young lady or whatever, right? So keep in mind I had a son. So my son would go to New York a lot of times with my mother because, you know, all my family was still in New York. So he would go up there a lot of times with them. Okay. So hold on a second. All right. So with talking to Malcolm, he was kind of jealous. Like, you know, he was originally from California, but he was kind of like jealous or whatever. So, you know, I would be talking to him. I would go shopping. I was probably shopping damn near like every day when I was fucking with him because he had that bread. You know what I'm saying? But he was jealous. So when he would leave, now this is where it gets funky. I'm just saying. When Malcolm would leave to go out of town, he would ask his homeboy, remember I told you we're going to call him Rich. He would say to Rich, you know, watch out for her, you know, make sure nobody comes over there, you know, look out for her. So basically almost like leaving me with a damn babysitter, like a grown-ass man that was a babysitter. Like, come on now.